welcome to round 2 of the 2023 Logitech G Pro Invitational Series.
When I'm driving an F1 car, steering wheel feedback is one of the most important things. It helps me decide when to brake and how hard. It's how I feel the surface of the road. Every bump in the terrain, every wheel slip. If my tyres are starting to lose grip, I can sense that immediately. When I'm driving in a sim, I need that same tactility, that level of detail I have in a real car.
Racing games have come a long way in the last 20 years. Nothing's really changed in how we approach force feedback in all that time. Cutting-edge sims are now so realistic, drivers across all disciplines are using them for training. Our main goal when designing TrueForce was to improve the number of sensations that you actually feel, to put you better in contact with the car that you're driving so that you can improve your performance and that enjoyment of driving on a track. The physical feedback needs to be more immediate or accurate, or a player loses immersion or control.
Game developers are still having to recreate their force feedback from a set library of effects instead of deriving it from real-time modelling.
TrueForce is special because it levels the playing field for PC and console gamers. You're now getting the extra level of precision and detail that you need, regardless of which platform is your choice. This is not just iteration, it's total evolution. TrueForce force feedback works differently. It hooks directly into the physics engine of the game. Games already calculate the forces on the tyres and the steering wheel. The TrueForce algorithm is able to process this data at up to 4,000 times a second. It will even use the game's audio engine and pass it directly on to the driver.
We spend a lot of time as audio designers trying to make each car sound unique and as realistic as we possibly can. Being able to integrate the audio into the force feedback is something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and TrueForce enables us to do that. and the ability to send the audio to the wheel to have it respond and vibrate with the loss of traction really increases my ability to give that immersion to the player.
You can sense the changing surface of the road. You'll be able to feel if the back end of the car is losing grip.
The first time we had it running in the build, I could feel the wheel humming and vibrating as we revved the engine. Our immediate reaction was it really adds another level of immersion.
The first thing you're going to feel with a True Force wheel is the engine note. The minute the engine starts in the game, you will know exactly which car you are driving. True Force is the beginning of something new. This is now the foundation for all wheels that we'll produce in the future. This extra level of information gives everyone all the information they need to learn how to control their car better. True Force benefits any racing fan looking for a more realistic driving experience.
Because winning is all about feeling.
It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.
It's amazing how much of a difference we've had since round 1 in 2022. This time last year, Madison Down went into round 2 with no points. This year, he heads to round 2 after a dominant victory at Sebring. On the other hand, the 2022 series champ Jared Filsell had a challenging start to his season, with a string of incidents that ultimately led him to not see the checkered flag. The hunter has now become the hunted, whilst the hunted is now on the prowl. Will the challenge start tonight, or are we playing the long game? A track that Madison is famously quick at, there will be plenty to play for this week. Round 2, the Wave Runner Phillip Island Super Sprint. Who will be challenged? Who will be caught in the drama? And who will be the victor in the Motorsport Australia Logitech G Pro Invitational Cup? Ladies and gents, welcome to a beautiful Phillip Island, the home of the Australian MotoGP. To call the action tonight, we welcome Lockie Mansell, Stephen Sandman Clark and Jake Blackhall. Gentlemen, welcome back for round 2. I'm sure we've all eaten a bit too many Easter eggs over the last 2 weeks, but we're back and ready to go. What are we looking forward to tonight?
Good evening to you, Cass. Good evening, everybody. Well, what I'm looking forward to is hopefully burning off some of the calories that I gained through my Easter egg consumption over the long weekend by getting nice and excited and energetic in the commentary box during tonight's pair of 23 lap races. I'm Lockie Mansell. Great to be back behind the microphone with you for round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational, a series that is the Watercrafts Performance Centre Phillip Island Super Sprint, presented by Motorsport Australia. Right off the top, we should apologise. Unfortunately, Stephen Sandman Clark is a DNS tonight in commentary due to some technical dramas, but don't despair because I've got a very capable co-commentator alongside me. It's a very good evening to Jake Blackhall. How are you tonight, Jake?
Thank you, Lockie. I am very good, and I think we're both going to be burning off some Easter eggs after that long April break. And for me, it's been a long break before I've been able to come back here on the Logitech Supercars Pro Invitational. It's been good to be back. Unfortunately, new work commitments means I'll be a little bit here or there, but it's awesome to be able to join the commentary booth with you, Lockie. And unfortunately, no Sandman, but I can't be upset when I've got you standing beside me.
Could be an entertaining night of racing, and unlike the opening round at Sebring, we've got a pair of races tonight, one compulsory pit stop in each of our 23-lap races. We're currently watching the qualifying session, which is an all-in 20-minute session. In the opening round at Sebring, it was Madison Down who converted pole position into a race victory. And so far, in this session, he is fastest. However, his lap time and the lap time of his teammate at Trans-Tasman Racing in Josh Anderson, they are identical to the thousandth of a second. Both those drivers punching out 1 minute 27.00 lap times to sit at the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, the TTR boys really on it straight from the word go. We expected that Madison Down is always super fast when he comes here to Phillip Island. It's always one of those people, when you see Phillip Island in the schedule, you put Madison Down as a pencil next to it of being up here inside the top 5, and he's done it once again so far in the 7 minutes of qualifying. One thing as well to mention as well, Lockie, the 23 lap sprints, it's going to be all out war. There is no managed tyres like we had last season. It's all out there, go flat out for 23 laps. And it's going to make it very interesting in terms of how these guys qualify, because you need a good, solid qualifying to get United away.
If we turn our attention back to the Phillip Island round last year, on that occasion it was Brady Myers who was victorious ahead of Richard Hampstead and Madison Down. Brady Myers chased Madison Down all the way to the checkered flag at Sebring in the opening round of our season. But the big news from Sebring was the absolute disaster round for our reigning series champion Jared Philsell, who, after what can only be described as a rather lacklustre start, the race got progressively worse and worse, and culminated in Jared crashing out of the race altogether. He was a DNF. He starts his title defence with 0 points.
It's a hard place to start, especially for Jared. It's one of those seasons where he dominated the whole way through all of last season. He could sort of, the last couple of rounds, take his bit of weight off and just drive around and get what he could, have some fun with it. Now he's got a lot of work to do, Lockie, and he can't just come out here and expect just to do it fast. He knows Madison and the rest of TTR are super quick here. 9 minutes into qualifying, he's currently P3, only 200ths off the top as a couple of other people start to improve. Burton moves himself up inside that top 5. Let's see where Philsell goes across the stripe, whether he improves his time. He doesn't. And that's one thing you need to do as well, Lockie. Stay inside that top 5. Stay up amongst it with those boys out in front, because they can just pull away out in front.
And one of the things that we generally see here at Phillip Island is, because the time degradation is so high, in qualifying you really only get one crack at it on a set of tyres. So everybody will go out, they'll do an out lap to cycle the tyres up to temperature and pressure. They'll get one flying lap, and if you don't nail that, then it's no good. Your tyres are going to be worn out after that, so you have to come back into the pits and put a fresh set of tyres on.
Yeah, that's always the hard thing. You can try and maybe get that second lap out of it. It's always hard. I remember when we had Bert and Jake here last season in terms of the qualifying series where we were talking about that. He always said it's one lap. If you don't push that first lap and you roll out of it fast enough, you could get that second lap. But with the way these guys are pushing hard right now, they're all trying to look for a draft partner. They're all going to be going just that one lap, flat out, get the times in at the moment as we look at Sebastian Flott, currently down in P20, 3/10 off the top, Lockie, and he's in P20. It is that tight so far right now in qualifying.
Just shows you how cutthroat the field is this year in the Logitech G Pro Invitational A Series. We have got 40 cars covered by 0.8 of a second. So we're talking literally a heartbeat, a blink of an eye, and you're going to be back multiple positions.
Half a second and you're 29th. Half a second, you're 29th in the field in a sprint race, and that's where you don't want to be. It is so tight out there. A 10th off the top and you're P7, and that's where James Scott is at the moment in P number 7, just inside that top 10. Muggleton 39th, 7/10 off the top. He was late to get into the championship in terms of, he was that lucky one. He was a lucky one when some people that dropped out were unable to make it into the main series. He scraped his way in. He's got a lot of work to do in this qualifying session so far.
for somebody like Jared Filsell, and for that matter Josh Anderson, who also came away with no points from round number 1, what's their mentality coming into this weekend? Because obviously they need to try and win to take points away from the likes of Madison Down and Brady Myers, but equally you can't take too many risks, because if you have another bad round, you're going to be further back than fullback in the championship.
That's exactly right. They've got to come into this and know that they just need a solid result, a decent 2 races here tonight. They need to make sure they don't get involved in any of the silly buggers at the start where people are going to be pushing each other off the track, pushing it down the inside. They need to make sure they get it calm, relaxed, focus on hitting their marks in that early part of the race, because they know wherever they finish in the opening race, that's where they start for race 2. As we look at the gaggle of cars all trying to sort themselves out, we know how hard it is in terms of you need a draft around here. It's so tight. We just spoke about how so tight it is. And look at this. This is what happens when 40-odd drivers are all like, we need an extra 10. A 10 gains us 10 spots. And that's what it does to people. They focus on trying to get in the draft. They all try and find out who's going to be in the train. And especially for some of these guys, they see the TTR train out in front, which we've currently got right now, Lockie, and you'll be wanting to get it behind them because you know they're going to be pushing to help each other.
The thing is, though, Jake, that it's all well and good to try and play tactics and try and get yourself in a position where you can get a draft from the car in front, but if you end up in a massive cluster of cars, like we saw running down to turn number 4...
Oh, I think Muggo's on a lap. Sorry to cut you off there, Lockie. I think Muggleton's on a lap in amongst all that battle pack. He is. There's a car around. And there's a massive... Look at this. This is the traffic. He's on a lap. He's offset everyone, and no one's moving. Oh, that was dangerous. That was a late move from, I think it was an ERT Commodore that dove to the inside. But this has ruined Muggo's lap. He's 39th, and this lap is done. He can't do anything about it.
Yeah, so the point that I was making is the fact that it's all well and good to try and play tactical games to get yourself a draft, but if you end up in a cluster of cars like that, any benefit that you might have gained from the slipstream is going to be well and truly nullified or outweighed by the disadvantage of getting caught up in traffic. I actually think that the best strategy is just to try and get yourself away from everybody and get yourself some clear track.
Well, that's, I think, what Muggleton tried to do, and then came up amongst everyone that was on a slow lap. But that was because, like you said, Lockie, they're all just trying to fight amongst each other in terms of getting a draft. And like you said, they're all going to hold each other up, And that's what happened. They were holding themselves up. That slowed that whole pack down, and Muggleton came up on them with nowhere to go.
And it looks like there was a bit of damage there as well. We saw somebody getting turned around on the run-up towards the hay shed, and there's a no escape rule as well. So if any of those drivers have sustained damage to their cars, they'll have to limp back to the pits, get the damage fixed, and that's obviously going to cost them time and opportunities to improve upon their lap times in this session.
And that's right, that's it. No escape rule in effect. As soon as you make contact, have damage, that's your whole session basically done, unless you can get it repaired. And that's what a lot of those guys, we didn't really catch who it was that got involved with Muggleton, but a couple of these guys coming across the time. James Scott with some purples. What lap time is that going to do? That's going to move him up himself to P number 4. So inside that top 5, 300ths of a second, Lockie, off the top of your 4. That's crazy.
So at the moment then, the top 10, we've got Madison Down on top ahead of Josh Anderson. Jared Filsell third at the moment. James Scott moving up to 4th on that lap. We've got some more fast times coming in as Jake Burton now goes to the top of 1 minute 26.99, but gets displaced straight away by Madison Down and by Jake Maloney. So some really fast times getting punched out now as we get into the business end of this qualifying session. Under 5 minutes remaining on the clock.
What a good lap time from Madison Down. Good time from Jake Burton. Puts himself up there, then immediately gets beaten by Madison Down and Jake Maloney. The big draft train. There it is right now. All of them all together were able to put the laps together, move themselves up inside that top, onto that front row. Burton there. Filsell still inside that top 5, a 10th off the top. Like we said, Anderson and Filsell, like you said, Lockie, didn't have a good opening round. No points to their name. They'll still be happy to be inside that top 5. But with these guys still improving, they will be worried that they could fall towards the back end of that top 10.
How about the performance from Rehan Leonage, one of the youngest, if not the youngest competitor in the field, up in 6th position. He impressed us during the qualifying series, which was the preliminary series where we saw him going door-to-door with some much more experienced competitors, and right now he's sitting well inside the top 10 on the timesheets.
Yeah, he's done a mega job during the whole qualifying series. He was one of those drivers that we basically, as soon as the first round came up, we were like, yep, we're going to keep an eye on Rian. He's going to be quick all championship. And we knew as soon as he got amongst all these guys, he would be quick, and he's showing it right now. P6 at the moment, so he is going to be looking to keep that position. There is a pit lane start, though, for Josh Muggleton for reckless driving. So I'm unsure, maybe he was the one that caused the incident at the top of the hill. Obviously, we didn't get the picture of that when that incident happened, but he has a pit lane start, and that's just going to make his night even worse than what it already is, down in 39th at the moment in qualifying.
Oh dear, poor Josh Muggleton. I do feel for him, but I suppose that's the effect of being out of sequence to everybody else during the qualifying session. He was on a hot lap when everybody else was warming up and came across on a slow-moving pack of cars, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You've still got a responsibility to make sure that you don't crash into people.
That's exactly right, especially if there is a whole bunch of slow cars out there. You're still got to make sure that you don't cause the incident, and if they cause the incident, then that's on them. But looks like the steward saw that he caused an incident at the top of the hill. It was Hayshed, sorry. So at the top of the hill, that's where they caused the accident, and that is where he'll be getting a pit lane start. As we look at these guys looking to set up their last qualifying run, it comes down to that 20-minute session, and that will be day done as these guys get towards the end of the session. No time elapsed over the top of that 20 minutes.
Good to see a number of drivers and teams this evening running Anzac tribute liveries. Of course, Anzac Day is next Tuesday, the 25th of April, and good to see a number of teams have taken the initiative to run their cars tonight with various commemorative signage, paying tribute to all of the servicemen and women who have sacrificed themselves for Australia and New Zealand. So fantastic to see.
Yeah, it's good to see. It's always good when the teams get on board, and they always do a good job. Every time I see Anzac liveries, it's a really good homage, and everyone really does an amazing job to make the cars stand out and gets on board with whatever festivities are going on at the moment. As we see Blake Warboys going down into Turb 1, they've done a mega job on their car too. They've got all the pay and homage as well to a service person that is part of their team. They've got his commemorative on the roof as well of their car.
Yeah, the citation to Lieutenant Albert Barella on the roof of that car of Blake Warboys. There's a good shot of it there, so very nicely done from that team. Blake Warboys in the number 63 car. Where's he sitting on the timesheets at the moment? A little bit further down the order. Yep.
Yeah, not the good qualifying that he'll be hoping for. There's a car around in front of him. That is always one thing that you hate in a qualifying session. When you see a car get around, you lose that focus. That mental focus just disappears. Just at that split second, you see that car go off. And as we say, that Stenberg, that's a long way off. That's at Miller Corner. That looked like that's all the way off the road. Now he's got to try and make sure he stays off the track. But that's his last lap done. So he's best he's going to qualify and start is P19.
Indeed. Will be interesting to see if any of these drivers can improve on what will effectively be the final hot lap of the session. Here comes James Scott in the 088 car down to the start-finish line. Currently in 7th position on the timesheets as James Scott got on the podium in the opening round at Sebring, as we've got another one of the Trans-Tasman cars. In fact, 2 of the Trans-Tasman cars off the road. Oh, and more dramas.
They're all off the road. They're all just trying to stay out of the way of everyone else when they've had a bad... Like, look at this, the TTR cars are off the road everywhere, trying to make sure they stay off the racing line, don't impede anyone. That's Burton, who is currently P3, and there was Maloney off the road too. They're all off the track.
I think a number of those drivers are going to abandon their laps and head back to the pits, and in fact that is the end of the qualifying session. So back-to-back pole positions for Madison Down. He's backed up his performance in qualifying from the opening round at Sebring, and in fact it's an all Trans-Tasman Racing first 2 rows of the grid. Look at that, Madison Down ahead of Jake Maloney, back to Jake Burton and Josh Anderson. Jared Filsell in 5th, back to Rehan Leonage in 6th position. James Scott, Andrew Gilliam, Brady Myers and Rick Kuznetsov rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, good to see that, especially those front two rows. We look further down the field, Ethan Grid-Gold in 14th. That'll be one person that I think will be wanting a little bit further up. Brenton Hobson as well. Kurt Stenberg, who we saw, he did drop a couple of positions later in that session, Lockie down to 21st. Sebastian Flock looked good in practice. He's starting 27th, and there's a couple of other people further down the field. They'll be hoping that they can just try and make the hay out of this race. 39th for Josh Muggleton. He will be starting from the pit lane. It's going to be a crazy one out there, Lockie, for 23 laps.
Sure is. It's going to be a flat-out sprint race, as we mentioned. We do have a compulsory pit stop to be taken by every car in the field for tyres, and the pit window will open on lap number 3. No fuel will be required in this race, so it's just going to be a flat-out sprint, and not a lot of tyre management required because it is a pure sprint race. But there's the man that they're all trying to chase, the man that they're all trying to beat. Championship leader after a comprehensive victory in round 1 at Sebring, and he's going to start on pole position tonight. Buckle up, get yourselves ready. This is round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational Series. It's presented to us tonight by Watercraft Performance Centre and by Motorsport Australia. Quick tip to win before we get underway, Jake.
I'm going to put my money on Burton.
He's been fast. I don't mind your prediction, but I think that we might see the likes of Josh Anderson and Jared Filsell bouncing back. The times in qualifying were mega close. Green lights, away we go. And it's a fairly even start from all of our drivers up front, but a few slow starts from drivers a bit further back, which means that we're going to see cars running 3 and 4 wide down into turn number 1. This is where you have to hold your breath and hope that everybody can make it through at least the first corner quickly, but we've already got a car running wide. Hopefully they can rejoin at Southern Loop without causing a massive pile-up. I think I was a bit optimistic with that. In fact, that car of Hayden Veld has gone straight on across the track. Lucky not to cause a massive pile-up there.
That was super lucky. When a car goes off at turn 1, you always worry. Look at all this, down into Miller Corner. There's a car 3 wide into the apex. I feel like that could have been a little bit of contact. Hopefully they all managed to escape out the other side. They have done so. But down, out in front, already put out a car length, but there he is, Jake Burton up into P number 2.
Great start from Jake Burton and Jared Filsell, the big loser from the start sequence. Jake Maloney, he's gone backwards a couple of positions. Josh Anderson has lost to spot 2. Good start from Ethan Grid-Gold. He's already up into the top 10, so has made up 4 positions in the opening half a lap of this race.
Yeah, I said he'd be a little bit disappointed with his qualifying effort, so he's trying to make up ground, and this is not where you want to have a car off the road. Mitchelson down off that hay shed coming down. He's managed to keep the car in the dirt, I should say. Not managed to skittle across the road. He's done a good job to keep it off there. Lockie is down, completes the first lap.
Oh, Jay, that was nervous for Luke Mitchelson. Whenever you go off there at Lukey Heights, because it's such an extreme downhill run on the grass on the run down towards the old MG corner, as we have described it for many, many years. Yeah, that can be nervous times indeed. So thankfully Mitchelson managing to rejoin safely there, but it is Trans-Tasman Racing cars running in positions 1 and 2. Jared Filsell looking to make amends from a shocking opening round, sitting inside the top 3 at this stage.
Yeah, sitting in P3, watching brief at the moment. It'll be interesting to see. Look at this down the inside. That was Myers on Leonard down the inside into Miller Corner. Did a really good job there. The battle's still going on through the whole field. We said it would be fast and furious. There's going to be a lot of action down the inside as well. Was James Scott on Rehan. So he's been pushed back a couple of positions, has Rehan this lap, and that's not going to help him in terms of just trying to get his composure. It's the early doors of this race. You want to try and get into a rhythm, but the boys are starting to beat up on him.
Yeah, he is getting his ears boxed a bit, young Rehan Leonard. This will be a good experience for him, having to race up against some of the most experienced drivers in the field. And now he's taking a slightly defensive line on the run down into MG Corner, just to cover off some of those overtaking opportunities, as we say, side by side. That's Ethan Grid-Gold trying to round up Dylan O'Shea, and they're going to head side by side into the final couple of corners. Grid-Gold's going to end up a bit awkwardly positioned on the outside here, but manages to hold on to it.
Marcelo Rivera's coming to pit lane, as well as Talyancic, a couple of others as well. It is the end of lap 2, start of lap 3. So this is the thing we were talking about. They needed to complete 2 laps. There's a couple of guys side by side. Is Grid-Gold. That's Kuznetsov around the outside. He was having a look. So is Dylan Rudd behind the Grid Gold in a little bit of a battle at the moment, trying to get himself back composed. And down the inside goes James Stewart as well. Job Stewart, sorry, on Dylan Rudd to get that position, moves himself up into number 13.
And maintaining and watching Grafe just at the back of that group in the fluoro yellow car, Brenton Hobson there, just sitting back minding his own business. He did that quite effectively in round one at Sebring as well, where he just played the very cautious, stay out of trouble sort of approach, and it ended up paying dividends because he finished the round inside the top 10. And once again, the very experienced Brenton Hobson just trying to conserve, I think, in the early stages of this race.
I feel like he was conserving then. He saw Dylan Rudd sent it down the inside of Job Stewart in the Miller corner, was able to hold on. Hampstead was trying to have a piece of it as well, whilst Hobson was just sitting back watching the whole action unfold in front of him. They started to settle down a little bit at the moment. It is lap 3 or 23 laps, but they know they can burn the tyres off. The tyre wear will start to kick in pretty quick here, Lockie, and that's where these guys will start to manage it. Even though they're only going to look at around 11 or 12 laps on a stint, they still need to make sure they manage it, because if they blow them right off and blow them out of the window, they will just start to fall like a rock.
The other point that we should make as well is it is a progressive grid format tonight, so wherever you finish this race is where you will start the next one. That means if you can gain some places from where you qualified in this race, you will improve your starting position for the next one. But conversely, if things go wrong and you end up with a DNF, you will start at the back of the grid.
That's exactly right. So these guys will be trying to make sure they just manage the top 10 at the moment to make sure they stay in the position to not lose too many positions. Myers right now, who we ride on board with, Gilliam behind him as well. I thought he may have had a look. Gilliam looks like he's got a little bit of speed once he got around Leonard that couple of laps ago, Lockie.
We saw this in round number 1 as well, that Andrew Gilliam in qualifying, not all that strong, but once he got some clear track, in terms of race pace, he was quite quick. So once again, he probably hasn't qualified quite as well as he would have liked to, but now that he's got clear of some of those slightly slower cars, starting to show some pretty good race pace. So he's one of those drivers who needs to make up as many spots as he can in this race and get himself a good starting spot for race number 2.
Yeah, like you said, had good, strong race pace at Sebring. Hopefully he can keep that up and try and move himself up further positions. This battle's starting to heat up out in front. There was a little bit of a technical issue for Madison down this lap. It looked like it freed itself up, and he's able to keep himself up in that P number 1. Burton behind Phil Sell in P at number 3. There's a drive-through penalty, and that's Stenberg way off the road on the exit of the last corner. If you look at his live stream, he had to catch that car. He did a good job and was able to hold on to it.
And it's Robert Gibbs who's got the drive-through penalty, and that's for making a dangerous re-entry to the circuit. So he'll to the pit lane as a result of that. As we have discussed, there are a few spots here at Phillip Island where if you go off the track, and particularly if it's in the early laps when you've got so many cars so tightly bunched together, it can be a bit tricky to rejoin the track safely. Here's a replay of the Robert Gibbs issue. So we saw that he ran wide at turn 1. It'll be the next bit that the officials won't have liked, just the way that he rejoined the racetrack right in front of the rest of the field of cars, and obviously got collected up the backside, and that caused damage for another competitor. So not what you would consider to be a safe rejoin.
No, definitely not, especially Hayden Veld, who got sent off on the outside of all that when Gibbs rejoined. He'll be upset because he's now got a lot of work to do. Like you said earlier, progressive grid. He's a long way off the pack already as it is, so he's going to be starting near the back for the second race tonight. He's got a lot of work to do for race 2. Lap 5, Madison down, out in front. Look, it's getting close out there though. Burton's not really pushing the issue too much, and I'm surprised Phil Sell hasn't tried to make a move yet to put himself into P number 2. Remember, they all look white out in front. They're not teammates.
No, because Phil Sell drives for the opposing Synergy Sim Racing squad, up against a massive gaggle of Trans-Tasman racing cars. As we take a bit of a look a bit further back in the pack, this is Adam Briggs involved in a contest with Brad Rattu, and it was Rattu was the driver who sustained damage after running into the back of Gibbs. So it'll probably be some aerodynamic, and I wouldn't be surprised if also maybe some engine performance issues with Brad Rattu's car at the moment.
Yeah, that's a beaten up Commodore trying to run around at the moment. He's just trying to manage his position, trying to keep that car as high as possible, try not to lose too many spots because he will just keep tumbling down the order. Dylan Rudd, as we look on board, he's got Job Stewart behind with Richard Hampstead as well. Hampstead and Hobson, like you said, Lockie, they're just sort of watching brief early on and they're not really trying anything.
Be interesting to see what happens in terms of pit strategy here tonight as well. So having a look at pit stops that have taken place so far. So Josh Muggleton started from pit lane, so that does not count as a compulsory pit stop. The best car that has made a stop at this point is Marcello Rivera, who currently sits in position 36. Also Tom Freer, an early trip to pit lane, but none of our leading contenders have chosen to pit yet. I think most people will probably be trying to get as close to the halfway point of the race as they can before taking their stop. We discussed it off air before the broadcast started, Jake. Ideally, you want to get to around that 11 or 12 lap mark before you pit so that you split the tyre wear evenly across your two sets of tyres.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's one of those situations where you'll manage that tyre wear to the point of just blow them to lap 10, 11 and come in and put another fresh set of boots on. That's sort of the main strategy that we feel like a lot of people go, because Znetsov down the inside of Group Gulp leaves in the room and let's get Znetsov go through. But that's where we definitely think the strategy is going to lie. You may see some people who are a bit further back in the pack, like we've seen, do an early stop and use the fresh air to try and make that ground up on other people who are battling and losing time. You know, you can definitely make up a couple of positions, but then it will hurt them later on in this race once the tyre wear hits them and the other guys on fresh tyres come through. So that's where the strategy sort of lies. I think it's going to be interesting once we hit that midway point, Lockie, to see who does dive in, who maybe tries to stretch to get a little bit more fresher tyre life towards the end.
One thing I will say, though, is if we were to get a safety car, everybody would come in all at once, because the disadvantage of staying out on the racetrack and getting traps behind the safety car obviously far outweighs any advantage that you might get from pitting a little bit later. So still very close up the front here. In fact, if you look at the gap, we've still got less than a second separating the top four cars in the motor race. And one of the things here at Phillip Island is, because of the strong effect of the slipstream, particularly down the main straight, it can be hard to open up a margin on the cars behind because they just catch back up in the tow.
It's like a DRS train, isn't it, at the moment? We've got a massive DRS train from first all the way through to roughly P8 at the moment. As you can see, there they all are, all the way back to Leonard, who has that little bit of a gap that he's trying to make up for James Scott, who is in that 8th position. It's a bunch of TTR cars with a little bit of SSR sprinkled in amongst with as well. So I believe that's also, I don't know whether one of the 9.5 Sim Sports cars, I believe it is at the back of that train. I know it's Performance Pursuit Sim Racing, sorry, at the back of that train. So it's one of those ones where you're just stuck at the moment. You can't do anything about it, especially for Burton. I think Burton's comfortable running in P2, Lockie. He's not going to try anything on his teammate. He's sort of happy with the pace that Down is running. If he had better pace, he'd most probably try and make a move, but at the moment he isn't. I was maybe thinking Phil Cell might try and mix him up a little bit, try and throw him off, but he's just comfortable sitting there in P3.
Oh, mistake for our leader, Madison Down, gone at the final corner, and in the time wall. That's our championship leader. And wow, that's very unlike Madison Down to make a mistake like that. I'm just wondering if maybe he's had some sort of hardware issue or something, because that looks like a very uncharacteristic mistake.
I think he tapped the grass. Very uncharacteristic, like you said, Lockie. Madison Down does not make many mistakes that are unforced, and this was unforced. Well, did he just run a little bit too wide on the concrete out there? He did. He's just a little bit too wide on the rumble strip on the exit into the last corner between turn 11 and 12. You use that rumble strip to get the car turned in, and it just lost the rear. You can see he used all that exit, and he just wasn't able to do it. And it just got the right rear into the wheel tracks of the dirt, and around he went. And he was a long way off the road, wasn't he, Lockie? All the way out there, he made significant contact with the tyre wall. Hopefully that car can get it to the end, but that's a massive hurt for Madison Down.
It sure is, because he has fallen all the way back to 22nd position. And that just goes to show how tightly the field was bunched, and that he's lost so much track position as a result of that. Here's what it looks like from on board. Talk us through it, Jake.
Yeah, so he's gone a little bit loose off the corner. He's tried to straighten up, use the rumble strip. He's just a half a car width too wide. Just a half a car width too wide on the grass, and that's all it takes. And bang, straight in the fence. Hit the right side of the car. You can see the right rear's got a lot more damage than the front. Hopefully that doesn't hurt him too much, but that's all it took. Phil Sell and James Scott have actually now pounced into pit lane.
Indeed, so we have reached end of lap number 9. So yeah, a lot of our front runners are coming in and getting their compulsory pit stop out of the way. So Phil Selling, James Scott has come to pit lane as well. Wayne Burke, Jordan Ross, all in the pits too. So that will leave Jake Burton as our race leader ahead of Jake Maloney, Josh Anderson, Brady Myers and Andrew Gilliam, the top 5 at this stage.
Sort of splits up that top pack, doesn't it now, Lockie? Obviously a little mistake from a Madison sort of release Burton, but now those pit stops, those flurry of pit stops from a bunch of those guys as the rejoin. That's a car off the road. That's a big moment for one of the ERT cars. That's Matthew Bowler all the way down off at turn number 1. Doohan corner, that's a long way off. That's not where you want to be. He's going to try and get that car back rejoined. Got to make sure he does that safely, and he does so, but that's a big off for him.
Being whiz, that almost looks like he was going to go right across the track and rejoin on the exit of Southern Loop, Cameron McConville-esque from 2009 Phillip Island 500.
It was big. Watch this. He's come up, a couple of cars exiting pit lane. He darted to the right. Unsure who that was in the Wave Runner SSR cars. Moved to the right. There's nowhere to go for Matthew Bowler except escape hard left and into the grass, and you can't stop it. We saw what happened. Madison down, got in the grass, couldn't stop that car. Same thing happened to Matthew Bowler. Burton, though, out in front, comfortable at the moment.
Actually, I have to say that as spectacular as that was, it was actually good sportsmanship from Matthew Bowler, because he could have very easily cleaned up one of those cars that had exited pit lane, but he chose to fire it off the road instead.
Yeah, he could have easily done that, but he's managed to just fire it off himself, keep the car clean. And now we have this sort of battle pack starting to sort of close up from second on back, I should say, sorry. As a bunch of other cars have pitted. Phil Sell is the first car that has pitted and completed his pit stop. As well behind him is James Scott, Marcelo Rivera. So those are the top 3 at the moment that have pitted. The rest of the field, as we hit that halfway mark, Lockie, still out there.
The good news for Jared Phil Sell is that he's come back out onto the racetrack with about 5 seconds of fresh air to the next car ahead. So his race is not going to be compromised too badly by being stuck in traffic, which can be the danger if you make an early pit stop sometimes.
Yeah, he's going to be happy that he's made clear air. I'm sure they would have had a spotter. He always does. That would have put him in a clean air. As Job Stewart looks to the inside of Ethan Grigalt, trying to make up another position before their first round of pit stop, or only round of pit stops. Burton, the race leader, comes down on the pit lane. He's going to do his, and Ethan Grigalt does the same, as well as Rick Kuznetsov, who was running inside that top 5.
Indeed, so 11 laps now complete, so we're well inside that window for the optimum time to get a pit stop out of the way. A few drivers choosing to run a bit longer. Jake Maloney now assumes the leader of the race ahead of Josh Anderson. Brady Myers, Andrew Gilliam, Job Stewart all yet to pit.
Just saw then Gilliam giving a little bit of a hurry up to Brady Myers through the southern loop. He was pushing him to the middle of turn 2. Will he have a look down the inside in Miller corner? And he doesn't, as James Scott further down the field on that fresher rubber sets the fastest lap, and they have jumped Jake Burton. So Phil Sell has actually taken the effective race lead once the pit stop cycle's done. So there is James Scott, behind him is Burton. There is Jared Phil Sell, who's got a good, comfortable margin over the rest of the field.
Yeah, so the undercut strategy has worked pretty well for Jared Phil Sell, so the advantage of getting onto fresh tyres and getting some clear track, it works to his benefit. And the problem now for Jake Burton is that he is trapped behind James Scott. So this strategy from the Synergy Sim Racing drivers has worked. What was looking like a bit of a Trans-Tasman whitewash, the pendulum has now swung, you would have to say, in favour of the Synergy Sim Racing crew.
Yeah, especially 1-2 at the moment in terms of, not on the track, but 1-2 in terms of effective race lead once these pit stops cycle through. Phil Sell doing a good job so far to keep that position, as Burton, once he gets these tyres up, he's going to be good. He's already in that window where the tyres will be starting to come good, and he can maybe have an attack on James Scott. He'll want to get this move done early, Lockie, to try and pay in that gap that Phil Sell's already got out in front of him.
Indeed he will. The longer that he stays stuck behind James Scott, the further Jared Filsell is going to drive down the road. Jake Maloney is now your race leader as we see that Burton has a really good run on James Scott. Switches to the inside. Only just a car width of room on the run down into turn number 1. And contact between the two of them. James Scott off the road through turn number 1.
Oh, what's the rejoin for Scott? He's done a good job. Oh, Burton went to the wrong side. Didn't think he was going to go to the inside, but there was a car with you. Tried to shove the nose down the inside. Scott gave it to him, and it was contact through the middle of turn 1. And around went Scott, half spin down into turn 1. Look at Burton. Burton down now. He was going to go looking to the outside. I thought he was going to go there. Scott slowly moved across and darted it to the inside. Oh, there was just enough room, maybe not even enough for the Commodore to go down the inside and then contact mid-corner. Well, that's a crazy, scary one into turn 1, Lockie.
Let's watch from the overhead shot. There was just enough room for him to get down the inside. Or, you know what? I reckon that at the critical point, he was far enough up the inside, Jake Burton. I really think that James Scott probably needed to give him a bit more room there. So I'm not sure that you could really blame Jake Burton for that one.
That just looked like hard racing, to be fair, with the two of them side by side in turn 1. You are right. Maybe got just to that critical point, but we'll let the stewards cut. Oh, there was a moment. Contact. And around goes. Was that a shot? It's Leonard as well. Big bit of contact at the middle. Down at MG after Lukey Heights. I didn't know whether they were going to make contact, but there was. And then a car around in the background. They're trying to get themselves back going, but they're stuck. These guys will be wanting to get back going quick. Try not to bring out a safety car. They have done so, Lockie, but that just all unfolded pretty quickly for the both of them.
They all got tangled up, didn't they? And that's a shame because both of those drivers were running quite strongly. There was another car that was involved as well. It was the car that was behind Dylan O'Shea, made contact with O'Shea and pushed him into... Okay, so Leonard was a bit slow on the exit, and that checked up O'Shea, and it was the car behind O'Shea which... I think you're right. It might have been Rick Kuznetsov who basically pushed O'Shea into Leonard and off the road Josh Anderson.
What is going on?
I can't believe the number of mistakes and drums that we're seeing from top-line drivers in this race. Oh, and the rejoin from Anderson was average as well, and that's caused Luke Rosella to go off the road.
And he is in the barrier there. Rosella, nowhere to come back there from that point. He's going to have to roll the car back, try and see if he can get the car out of that position. It's hard to rejoin from there. But what is going on in this race, Lockie? The pit stops happen and everyone has let loose. They knew it was a sprint race. We had the incident between O'Shea, Riha Lianic. I think it was, like we said, Rick Kuznetsov. Then this one here, I think Anderson just did it always on his own. He outbraked himself. Then watch the rejoin. It's not a good rejoin. Clips the back of Luke Rosella, and he's just on for his own little ride out in the grass. He tried to bring it back, but had to slam on the brakes, hit the tyre barrier, and he's dropped a long way down through the field.
Yeah, I think Josh Anderson will be in a bit of strife for that one. That was a pretty average rejoin, you have to say. And we were talking at the top of the broadcast, Jake, about Easter eggs. Well, I hope the stewards have consumed plenty of Easter eggs tonight because they're going to need the caffeine and sugar to keep themselves awake while they go through all of the footage and all of the data and adjudicate on some of the incidents that we've seen.
There's going to be a lot of incidents to adjudicate after this one, and that's the thing as well. They've got a second race to go for, so whatever happens in this one, they're going to try and sort out as quick as they can. If they can sort it out, sometimes you can't. You just have to look at it after the race. You need a little bit more time to digest what has happened, but you do that. Now you're going to get to the next race where, if, you know, some people get a little bit of that red mist, don't they, Lockie, when they see that car. You took me out in the first race. I'm going to maybe give you a little bit of a bump here or a little bit of a, hello, I'm back, remember me? And I feel like that could carry over into race 2, but here's a panel heating up. Phil Sell has been caught by Burton.
He sure has. Burton's had good pace, and no doubt the incident with him and James Scott will be investigated, but I do get the feeling that Burton might get away with that one. I think that Scott probably should have given him a bit more space down at turn number 1, and yeah, Burton showing a very good turn of speed. We've still got 8 laps remaining in this race. Incidentally, there are 4 drivers still yet to pit. Jake Maloney is your race leader by 7 seconds ahead of Richard Hampstead. Madison Down, who will be running a late pit strategy, you would imagine, to try and recover some of the time lost with that off-track excursion at the final corner. He's 3rd. And then Kurt Stenberg sitting in 4th position. Jared Filsell and Jake Burton, these two drivers that we're watching at the moment, they are battling for what is 5th position on the road, but first in terms of the cars that have done their pit stops.
Down's going to be happy as well. There is a lot of incidents going on further down the field. I'm sure he'll be getting fed that he will be able to make sure that he can, you know, capitalise on all those mistakes. He'll be making up positions. As Hobson has a look down the inside of Marcelo Rivera, it was the drive-through penalty that came up for Robert Gibbs for that unsafe rejoin. So that's going to be one that he is having to serve, which I think we got earlier, didn't we, Lockie? So unsure why that one's come back up again. But Hobson got the move done, or Rivera moved himself up into P number 14, and he'll be looking to try and make way with Wayne Burke in front of him as well.
Here's Brenton Hobson continuing his fairly trouble-free race tonight. And here's a battle on a bit further back. This is Ethan Grigault being passed by, in fact, running side by side and recapturing the spot from Wayne Burke, heading into MG corner. But Burke will be on the inside for the next couple of corners, so they'll still be side by side. Give the spot to Wayne Burke. He's hung Grigault out to dry there. Nice move.
Yeah, really nice move there for Wayne Burke. There is a post-race investigation for lap 10, turn 1, that is between Matthew Bowler and Jordan Ross. So that was the incident that we saw going down to turn 1, where Bowler was well out wide, all in the marbles, not able to do it. I have to say, I do like the SSR livery that was on Wayne Burke's car, the Hendrick Cars livery that is obviously ran by Carl Larson and various other Hendrick drivers in the NASCAR series. But look at Burton all over the back of Phil Sell, giving him a push as they go through Stoner Corner. He is flying out there. He wants to get this move done.
Well, he needs to get a move on with it, because while he continues to battle it out with Jared Philsell, they're both being caught by Brady Myers. So yeah. Myers is cruising up to this battle for the lead at a rapid rate of knots, and it's shortly going to become a three-way contest. Brady Myers the last time around was 9/10 of a second quicker than Jared Philsell, so he is closing and closing in fast.
And that is 4 laps fresher tyres on Myers. That's where the lap time is coming from. Philsell pitted roughly 8 laps ago. Burton was 6. Myers was only 4. So this is where that tyre advantage comes in. And look at Philsell. He has got Burton all in those mirrors, trying to see what he can do. We saw what happened down into turn 1 with Philsell on Scott. Will he try and get the run this time to have a look down into turn 1, Lockie?
And he's going to get a good slipstream advantage from Jared Philsell as they head down the main straight. Philsell will be aware of it. Covers to the inside. Burton to the outside. Can he hang tough and go the long way round? It's pretty hard, but he's got confidence, Jake Burton. They almost bang doors. If he can stay there, he'll be on the inside for Southern Loop. And he's going to pull it off. What a move by Jake Burton. Full commitment around the outside at turn number 1 and gets the effective race lead from Jared Philsell.
What a move from Jake Burton. Set himself up around the outside, got the job done. He hanged it tough around the outside. Philsell going defensive. He's got Myers now behind him, who is that charger with the fresher tyres. He'll be wanting to make it done so he can try and have a dig at Burton, but Burton now needs to escape. He needs to use whatever little bit of grip he has left to try and get away from Philsell and Myers, because he knows Myers with that fresher rubber can easily close down that gap if he gets the job done early.
And look who's lurking behind these through as well. Andrew Gilliam. He was 8/10 of a second quicker than this trio last time around. So it was a 2-way battle, then it became a 3-way battle. It might soon be a 4-way dice.
The thing as well, this is helping Maloney, who's still out there on old tyres. They're running nearly the same lap times. If not, Maloney was actually quicker than Burton and Philsell last time around. So when he pits, he'll be coming out in amongst this battle. And if he comes out amongst this, he's going to be in fresh tyre land and be able to make some ground.
Madison Down, incidentally, has taken his pit stop and rejoins the race back in 22nd position. We're saying that it's a 15-second penalty for O'Shea for the incident with Leonage. So the officials have had a look at that one, and they've decided that it was Dylan O'Shea who was responsible for that incident with Rehan Leonage.
Yes, obviously no third car contact from behind to O'Shea. It was obviously all on O'Shea. Maybe there was a little bit of contact after the fact once the contact was made. So that is all on O'Shea. But here comes Kuznetsov, who we were just talking about. He's got James Scott, who obviously had that incident with Burton at turn 1. Kuznetsov with a run through Stone. I have to go around the outside down into Miller Corner. He's going to try and hang it tough, but with the inside line, will Scott be able to get the better drive? He does, and holds on to that position.
Yeah, tough to go around the outside there into the corner that's now known as Miller Corner in honour of Aussie MotoGP rider Jack Miller, formerly known as Honda Corner, of course, and otherwise always known as turn number 4. But James Scott, since that incident at turn number 1 with Jake Burton, has just been struggling with a bit of pace, and no surprise to see that Josh Anderson has a drive-through penalty, and that's for the unsafe rejoin that we saw on the exit of turn number 4 where he took out Luke Rosella.
Yeah, that one I think we saw was going to come at some stage, if not some form of penalty for the unsafe rejoin. He is actually right here behind Brenton Hobson, so he's going to have to get out of this battle pack and come on the pit lane. Here he is right now, and he will come down to serve that drive-through penalty. So a tough start to the championship for Josh Anderson. First race, no points. Second race so far in the first race of round 2. And he's going to have to serve a drive-through penalty. It puts him all the way at the back. And here is Maloney out in front doing it all by himself.
Yeah, so he's going to leave it right till the very last minute before pitting. These tyres are obviously going to be well and truly worn now. And the problem with leaving it this late, of course, is that he's not going to have a whole lot of time to exploit the advantage of the fresh tyres that he'll get when he comes in for his pit stop. Moore moves on a bit further. That's Brady Myers sending it down the inside of Jared Filsell, who returns serve on the exit and in fact pushes Myers off the road at turn number 4. So it gets a bit physical between the Trans-Tasman driver and the Synergy Sim Racing driver. Myers looks to have had the move done, but ran wide on the exit. And a look at Filsell. Get that into you, he says, and just shoves Myers wide at turn number 4. No doubt another incident that will be looked at by the officials post-race.
I think it will be. I think that'll definitely be looked at post-race. It was a big send from Brady Myers down the inside, middle of the corner contact with Phil Selden on the exit. The two of them get together. Hobson looks like he's got a mirror full of Jordan Ross at the moment as well. Maloney Hampstead still out there on the tyres. They're going to start lap 21 on the racetrack 1 and 2 at the moment, still just trying to see if they can get as much as they can out of that tyre set. They're going to be dinner tables after this one, Lockie.
Brenton Hobson with a pretty good run on Ethan Griggold as they head down the main straight. These two have been in fairly close proximity right throughout the evening. Hobson just tucking into the slipstream of Ethan Griggold, one of the drivers in the Logitech G Pro Invitational, who's also involved in some real-life motorsport competition, competing in the Toyota 86 Racing Series this year. Ethan Griggold, having previously won the Hyundai Excel National Championship.
Yeah, he's done a good job to be able to get that one. Oh, there's a little bit of contact side by side down again at Miller Corner. Miller Corner's been the highlight tonight. There's been a lot of action down there. Ross gets that move now up on Hobson because Hobson was having a dig at Ethan Griggold. Warboys is going to hold on to that position of Rivera, who was having a look in the Anzac liveried ERT Commodore. And now it's all just stations of calm for one corner or two at the moment. We think as we get the Lukey Heights down into MG, who knows what could unfold as we get down the inside. And there he goes. He has a little look behind them. Looks like that's Madison Down having a look on Aaron Borg. Did he get that move done? I think he did as well. So that's going to be another move. Oh, he's on the outside. So there's that position. But Bill Sell now, he's got Gilliam. He said he was coming, Lockie. Here he is.
Yeah, Gilliam with some really strong pace late in the race, and he has caught up to the back of Jared Filsell, a couple of tenths quicker than Filsell last time through. Filsell with tyres that are a bit older than Andrew Gilliam as well. 3 laps the difference in their tyre wear. Jake Maloney, incidentally, still yet to pit, so he's going to pit at the end of lap 22, and he'll have just 1 lap to go on his set of tyres. Down the inside, Andrew Gilliam on Jared Filsell, and this time it's Filsell that gets escorted slightly wide on the exit of turn 4, back down the inside into Siberia, and recaptures the position. Nicely done there, but it's not over yet because Gilliam still has some overlap. They'll go side by side into the hay shed. This is always nervous moments, seeing cars running side by side through the fastest corner on the racetrack, but they've managed to do it, and they've managed to get away with it. Filsell holds onto the spot.
Yeah, and he's gone defensive down into MG. He's going to push Gilliam to the outside, a little bit of inside front lock, and he got the rears lit up on the exit, did Gilliam, so he had an IFL down into MG, got the rears lit up on the exit. Here comes Maloney, race leader in the pit lane. He's going to have 4 fresh boots ready to go. So does Hampstead as they come down. Burton, the race leader. Let's see. White flag, last lap of the race. And let's see where this battle is. There is Maloney. He's a lot closer to Burton than I thought he would be.
Yeah, so this strategy's actually worked out really, really well for Jake Maloney. Probably better than any of us expected, because he's come out right behind our race leader, Jake Burton, and with a completely fresh set of tyres. How quickly can he get up to temperature with them? And will he have a chance to attack Jake Burton for the race win in this final lap?
He might be able to get him at the end of the lap. If he can get this corner nicely settled down into Miller, he will have fresh rubber that he has. He's 11 laps fresher in terms of the tyre department. The battle's going on for the final spot on the podium. Phil Sell currently holding down from Gilliam, with Myers now back in the fray to try and get on the podium. But Lockie, it's down between Burton and Maloney.
What an unbelievable strategy from Jake Maloney, running the first 22 laps on the same set of tyres and being able to punch out lap times that were fast enough and consistent enough to keep him within range of the race leader when he finally took his pit stop. It's a strategy that's worked a treat for Jake Maloney as this battle continues for the final spot on the podium. Brady Myers throwing everything at Andrew Gilliam in the final couple of corners. But Burton is going to hold out this late attack from Jake Maloney, and it will be Jake Burton who wins a chaotic opening race for the Phillip Island Super Sprint for the Logitech G Pro Invitational Series. Burton, your race 1 winner. Maloney coming home in second position. Jared Philsell holding on in what was a physical battle for position 3, ahead of Andrew Gilliam, Brady Myers, back to James Scott, who was in the thick of the action in that race. Rick Kuznetsov, Dylan Rudd, back then to Richard Hampstead, another driver who ran that long pit strategy, coming home in 9th position, and Wayne Burke rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, wow, what a result for Merton. I caught him out at the start. Jake could have a good run. He usually did. He did last year at Supercar East Series as well. So I suspected that Burton could have some good quick sprint run pace, and that he showed, Lockie, and he did a good job to hold on Maloney towards the end.
He sure did. So I'll tell you what, the officials are going to have a bit of work to do after that one, because there were several quite controversial incidents. Some of them resulted in penalties that were handed out during the race. There will be some others where we might see some post-race investigations. So a bit of work to be done, but I think we can safely say that Jake Burton will be declared the race winner, because he was one driver who stayed relatively clean throughout that race. We did see the incident with James Scott, but like I said, I think you would class that as a racing incident.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do on that, but nonetheless, Jake did a masterful race, did a mega job to stay out of trouble, to get into the position. As I'm just hearing over the radio, car 1 with a 5-second time penalty. So that's Jared Philsell with contact. I believe that was with Brady Myers. So 5 seconds gonna drop him to P number 8 at the end of that one. So not clean sailing for Jared Philsell coming home in P3.
Yeah, and that'll be for not giving Brady Myers enough racing room on the exit of turn number 4. What he really should have done was just, rather than running Myers off the side of the track, if he'd maintained his line and given Myers racing room, they could have continued to drive side by side up to the next corner. So the officials have made the call on that one, and that promotes Andrew Gilliam then up to position number 3. So plenty to unpack from that race. What we might do here in commentary is grab a break. We'll be back with you very shortly as we prepare for race number 2 here at Phillip Island.
Weekend in, weekend out, Motorsport Australia officials are making waves. From waving flags, waving cars through pit lane, or responding to a wave for help. Wave hello to new lifelong friends. Who knows, you might just make waves around the world. Ride the first wave. Search Motorsport Australia officials today. It's Motorsport. It's motorsport, but not as you know it. Test yourself and your everyday road car. Safe, affordable, but most of all, fun. And all you need is your daily driver. Experience the thrill of a sprint day. Race against the clock at a hill climb. Or test your reflexes with an auto test. It takes just 3 simple steps to get started. Get on the start line. Search Motorsport Australia Daily Driver today.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational E-Series. It's coming to you from Phillip Island Grand Prix Circuit. It is presented by Watercraft Performance Centre and also Motorsport Australia. Confirmation of your Heat 1 results. Jake Burton getting the win ahead of Jake Maloney. Andrew Gilliam, he will be promoted to position number 3. For those of you who've just joined us in the broadcast, Jared Filsell receiving a 5-second post-race time penalty for a driving infringement at turn number 4 that also involved Brady Myers. And a few other penalties. We saw a few drivers penalised for unsafe re-entries to the circuit in that one, including Josh Anderson, who received a drive-through penalty for an incident at turn 4 where he ran wide and in coming back onto the circuit made contact with the car of Luke Rosella. So the grid positions for race number 2 then, they will be determined based on the finishing positions from race number 1. So we're going to have a bit of a jumbled up grid for this one, and in particular some quite fast drivers starting a bit further down the order. We know that Madison Down is going to be starting right in the middle of the pack after what was a very uncharacteristic mistake for him in race 1, and a couple of other fast drivers including Rehan Leno starting a bit further down the order than that. Lockie Mansell behind the microphone with you this evening. Jake Blackhall joining me in commentary as well. Jake, have you caught your breath yet? And what were your thoughts from that opening race?
It was a bit of a chaotic one, wasn't it? Opening race, first race back for me, and they said it all like maybe they just knew I was back. They wanted to put me under the pressure, but it was a mega race from all of them once again. But yeah, what a race. Burton, I picked him. I won't pick you again, Jake, if you ever do hear this, because I'm actually put the commentator's curse on you for the second race, so that's not going to happen. Apologies. So hopefully I don't have to do that. But it was one of those races where as soon as the pit stop cycle happened and people were already ready to go, it just sort of lit the field up with a little bit of fire and started the carnage. And a lot of those guys that we know, Madison Down obviously making that mistake early on. That's such a big unforced error from Madison Down, the points leader coming in. He's got a lot of work to do in this one, Lockie.
He sure does, and in fact, looking at the championship points coming into the round, the drivers who are likely to be the big beneficiaries, Jake Burton obviously is the race winner, and also the likes of Andrew Gilliam and Brady Myers, they're both going to probably leapfrog Madison Down in the point standings as well. So. And Jake Maloney, the other one who's going to move up. So no doubt the championship standings will get shaken up a bit when we get to the end of this round. And like I said, the progressive grid for race number 2, it means that we've got some fast drivers fighting their way through from a bit further back in the pack. Bit frustrating for them, but certainly good for us up here in the commentary box because we get to see them working their way through the field. Let's check out your grid positions for this race. Jake Burton on pole position ahead of Jake Maloney. Now, it says that Jared Filsell is to start from position 3. Not sure if that will be the case.
That will be the case.
It will be? Okay. So he will start 3rd. Andrew Gilliam next ahead of Brady Myers. Back to James Scott, Rick Kuznetsov, back to Dylan Rudd, Richard Hampstead and Wayne Burke, your top 10.
Yeah, so unfortunately that will be the case. Jared Filsell will start 3rd. The post-race time penalty doesn't get added in the current session. It will get added post-race in terms of results. So he will start 3rd, so he'll still keep that position, but a couple of further people down. Madison Down in P17, watch for him in this race. Josh Muggleton as well, 31st. 4th with Josh Anderson, 36th. I've heard those guys further down, Lockie, they're going to be quick.
And also Luke Rosella, he was pretty quick in the opening round at Sebring, and he's starting all the way down in position number 42 on the grid. He obviously was the driver who came off massively second best in that incident with Josh Anderson. As we get the race underway, what a start from grid position number 3. Jared Filsell goes straight through the middle and will take the lead by the time they get to turn number 1. He absolutely nails the launch, Jared Filsell, and he has shot through to take the lead, and we've got cars off the road already.
Maloney, Scott, Ross and Myers are dropping down the order like a rock. I think that's Maloney there in the infield. He's trying to rejoin safely. He's just going to let the whole field go by. Maloney, after such a strong opening race, falling all the way back to P number 43. He's got a lot of work to do. Who's that? That's Scott on the inside. Locked the rears inside of Dylan Rudd. That's a Burke was around as well for SSR. There's a lot of cars going around. There's another car off in the dirt. It's all unfolded early on again, Lockie.
Wow, absolute pandemonium in the early stages of this race with incidents at turns 1, 2 and 4. But Jared Filsell, what a reaction time, what a launch from grid position number 3 to go through to take the lead of the race. Andrew Gilliam has moved up into second position ahead of Rick Kuznetsov. It's not been a good start for our race winner, Jake Burton. He's lost 4 spots. He's back to position number 5. So, terrible start for Burton. Let's check out some replays and catch up on exactly what happened at the start and the opening sequence of corners. Here is what the launch looks like from Jared Filsell. Drove it away perfectly.
What a start from Filsell. That would have to be one of the best starts I've seen in a long time. He nailed that. No wheel spin. Got the car going. There was contact between teammates. That's what sent them both off. Myers got into the back of Maloney and sent them both off into no man's land, out in the weeds. Filsell with a mega start. Burton had the opposite, had the worst start, lit both rears up, and that's why he's in P number 5. Oh, there's another car off the road. That's Robert Gibbs again off at turn number 1. He's going to have to try and rejoin safely. He does. There was another car, I think Burke, off with a lot of damage as well. But Filsell out in front. Gilliam, who would have been my pick for this race, he had mega pace in that second race, Lockie, and now he's done well to put himself in P number 2. He just needs to get qualifying done as Filsell had a front lock, managed to hold on to it.
Rick Kuznetsov doing a good job. He obviously did really well to avoid all of that drama that was going on in the first couple of corners, and he's sitting in third spot now, Kuznetsov, and showing enough pace to be able to keep up with the race leaders. So a strong early run from Kuznetsov.
Good strong run so far for the field. That is inside that top 4 at the moment. There's another couple of cars having a look down the inside. That's Brian Borg looking to the inside. He's got Adam Briggs right behind him, as well as Luke Mitchinson, who we saw have that mega moment in the opening race on lap 2. He's managed to move himself up into P number 18 so far. Further back, Thomas Hinds looking a little bit further back. He's got Boyd as well as Anderson just in front of him, trying to see how far Madison down. He's already up into P number 12, if anyone wants to know. So he's flying.
He sure is. So just needs to keep picking them off one by one. Madison down. But Jake Burton, after what was a poor start, starting to respond with some pace on the track. Fastest lap of the race for Jake Burton, that time through a 1 minute 27.59.
Really good job from Jake. He'll be gutted that he stuffed out that start, because all he needed to do was just get out in front and just try and drive away. He had the pace in the opening race. We saw that once he sort of got him past Filsell, he was gone. A little bit of the ability just to drive away, and he did that. And now he's got, oh, there's a big accident at Miller Corner. We've seen that before, and it's happened. Bradley Ratu has gone off Damien Johnstone with nowhere to go, with a car backwards straight into the front end.
That was Alex Premer and James Courtney-esque, wasn't it? So it was contact with the back of Brad Rahu's car that saw him getting skewed sideways across the grass, and there was absolutely nothing that Brad Rahu could have done there. He had everything locked up. He did everything that he possibly could have to avoid it spearing back onto the track, but he was pretty much a passenger as soon as he left the road. So very unfortunate there for both Rahu and Johnson, and I think the driver who made contact with the rear of Rahu will be in stripers. James Scott goes off the road and somehow manages to gather it up. It's not very often here at Phillip Island that you can run wide there at the final corner and rejoin the circuit without making very heavy contact with the wall or with another car or with a combination of those two things, but somehow he managed to get away with it.
It's all unfolding in this race. Again, just Scott ran wide. We saw Stenberg do this in race 1, and he's done the same thing again. Just tried to keep his put in the throttle and get the car straight. Did a good job. Job Stewart's now he's already rattled, so he's now trying to throw it down the inside of James Scott, who is just trying to get his composure back, but gets the job done. Good move by Job Stewart, moves himself up into P number 6, goes defensive into turn number 5, and now in turn 6, into Siberia, and makes that move stick. Now he's got to try and focus on closing on the Dylan Rudd, but what has happened out in, it's been chaos already, everyone's going around.
It sure has. I'll tell you what, James Scott did a pretty good job to only lose effectively 2 positions out of that mistake on the main straight, but Job Stewart, another one of our real-life racing drivers. He's competing in the Super 3 Series this year, having formerly competed in the Toyota 86 Racing Series. Here is your race leader, Jared Filsell, who has an advantage of 0.3 of a second over Andrew Gilliam. Rick Kuznetsov, Jake Burhan, and Dylan Rudd inside the top 5 at this stage.
Yeah,
and a drive-through, there you go, Jake Burhan. A drive-through penalty for contact with Wayne Burke. So there we go. So it was Burton that made contact with Burke. That was why we saw Burke spinning off the road at turn number 4. So our race 1 winner is going to be penalised in race number 2.
Wow, big complications for that for his championship. He needed to have a really good solid round. And it just didn't happen. So this is after the start. So this is down the inside into turn number 4 at Miller Corner. That's a long way back. Long way back. Made contact with Burke, and around goes Wayne Burke. And that is where the 5-second time, or the drive-through penalty, comes for Burke. Nowhere to go. Just trying to see if he can rejoin, wait for the field, and off he goes. But massive implications for Burke now race 1 winner.
And that was all created because he got such a terrible start.
Yeah.
Jake Burton, had he not made such a slow getaway from pole position, he wouldn't have been back there having those battles, as we see James Scott doing his best to put some pressure on to try and recapture the spot that he lost from Job Stewart a lap or so ago. And a bit of Morse code on the rear bumper of Job Stewart's car as they head through MG Corner.
He's giving him the hurry up, is he, James Scott, trying to make sure they get the move done. That looks like that's Burton coming down the serve hit drive through, and that it is. So he's going to get that done as soon as he can, get that out of the way. But Scott, now he gets his composure back. He now just needs to try and focus on getting this move done to get into that clear air in front of Joe Stewart and get that move done. Filsell, though, out in front of Gilliam. He is just sitting there biding his time. I feel like Gilliam's doing the same thing that Burton did, trying to make a little unforced error to take that position away.
One who could be in a really good spot here is Rick Kuznetsov, because he's just maintaining a watching group in 3rd position. He's not right on the rear bumper of Andrew Gilliam, which means that he's not too close that he's going to get caught up in an incident should these 2 leaders come together. So it's been a good, sensible drive from Rick Kuznetsov so far. And Dylan Rudd's right in the mix as well, sitting in 4th position.
Yeah, as we looked at drive-through penalty for Rena Leonard for contact with Bradley Radu. So that was what happened down at turn 4. The Prema 2013-esque with James Courtney incident down at Miller Corner. That one's gone the way of Rehan Leonard. So he's going to have to serve that penalty as well. But I thought they were going to go side by side through race shed again. We don't need that. In this race so far early on. We're at lap 6, and let's get to the end with hopefully some good battles and some clean racing.
You have to feel a bit sorry for Rehan Leonard after such a strong qualifying performance tonight.
Yeah.
The races have been anything but satisfactory for him. A bit of a baptism of fire, and no doubt tonight will be an event that will be a valuable part of his sim racing education, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's right, especially when you come into these races where you do have a bad one, but you're showing good pace. You can take the pace from it as Myers down the inside of Jordan Ross. He's going to pick up pin number 8 in a turn number 1. But that's one of those things, you sort of focus on the positives that come out of an event like this, and he knows he has really good race speed. He's shown that before, and he was showing it again. You just go, okay, bad races, you just got to brush it off. He's young, though. He's got a long career ahead of him.
He sure does. That was a nice textbook move from Brady Myers to get the job done there, but Brady Myers, you feel, might be in a little bit of strife as well after making contact with Richard Hampstead at turn number 1, so I would suggest that that's an incident that's probably going to get investigated. Look at the damage to the back of Ethan Rigolt's car. He's copped some hits. Yeah, multiple times, you would imagine. Here we go. This is a replay explaining exactly why the back is missing off Ethan Rigolt's car. So this is the first lap of the race. So he got rear-ended when he was trying to avoid the spinning car of Wayne Burke at turn 4.
He actually got rear-ended by Madison Down. I'd be surprised if Down doesn't have damage to the front of his race car, which is just one of those things, the early lap scuffles, it may be that he has damage as well. So Ethan Skrgolt, he's got a lot of damage. He's now missing the boot, so he's had another hit in the rear that's actually lost more damage to that car, but he actually got hit the initial time by Madison Down. It's be interesting to see how much damage he has to the front of his car. As Bill Sells still out in front by 1/10 of a second over Gilliam. It's just waiting to make that move, because Netsov's sitting there. Dylan Rudd's doing a really good job though. He's not really falling away from the top 3 at the moment, is he, in 4th?
No, in fact, those two 9.5 SimSport cars of Rick Kuznetsov and Dylan Rudd, they've both had really strong evenings so far. They haven't been involved in some of the incidents that we've seen other competitors get involved in, and now that we're getting to the business end of the night, they're starting to make their presence felt. So really solid night for both those drivers.
Well, boys, down the inside of Ethan Griggold at Miller Corner. Let's see Griggold trying to hold himself on the outside, keep himself in that position through his tyre barrier, and going to get that job done and keep himself up in that P. Number 14, Wall Boys, though, all over the back in that Mustang, trying to see if he can get the position back. Ethan Griggold will be fighting a lot of damage, though, Lockie. His car will be hurting for this entire race.
And it makes it a pretty long race, doesn't it, when you're battling on with a wounded car that doesn't quite have the pace to fight effectively with the drivers around you. It can just make it a really tough night at the office and difficult to maintain concentration and motivation.
It does make it hard. It's one of actually the hardest things, I think, in sim racing that you can sort of have as well. Besides having a really good race car and have a really bad night, it's hard to have a car that's damaged. You know it's damaged, but you just can't do anything about it. So you got to try and manage it. And because everyone's so tight, it's so close racing. Look, Freya to having a look down the inside of Mitchelson in turn 1. It just makes it such a long drag. 23 laps for Ethan in this one will feel like an eternity.
So we're now on lap number 9, so we're getting to about the stage of the race where we started to see the pit stop cycle unfold in race number 1. So the question now is who's going to be the first to blink, who will be the first to dive into pit lane and take a fresh set of tyres. Freer down the inside of Mitchelson, he had the front right locked up. It wasn't pretty, but he made it work at turn number 4 and picks up the spot.
Got the job done at the end of the day, moved himself up to P number 16. Luke Mitchelson gave him enough room, got the job done to make sure there was no contact and not put himself in a worse off position, because he did have Brian Borg right behind him looking to try and make a move, as well as Stenberg, who has managed to close himself up into that position. But still out in front, like you said, there's not much sort of watching breathe. The pit stop cycle should start around this lap. We'll see if any of the top 10 decide they want to come down into pit lane, and as I say that, Richard Hampstead, he ran it long, he's coming down to pit lane for the first stop.
Yeah, so a bit of the opposite strategy for him compared to what we saw in the previous race, this time going for the undercut strategy. We've also got Luke Mitchelson, Brian Borg and Sebastian Flock all coming in for a fresh set of boots.
So one thing as well, we've got to question up. I had a little bit of a person in my ear, aka Brenton. Thank you for the information. It's the same thing that happened at Winton last year. So you've just got to get the car up on the jacks, so it doesn't actually have to do a full tyre service. So all they have to do is get the car up on the jacks and down. So a lot of these guys may actually not be putting fresh tyres on. It's just an up and a down. So that's all they need to do, get the car up on the jacks, and that completes their compulsory pit stop. So I feel like some of these guys may not have fresh boots on, but it looks like once you cool the tyres off, and this is what happens, it sort of gives it a little bit of a fresher life in the sim. So a little bit of a breath of fresh air in the tyre life that comes back to you. So that's why we have seen a lot of the guys, once they come into the pit cycle, actually have better rubber when leaving, even though they may not actually serve a full tyre stop. It's more the fact that they let the tyres cool down and get back into an optimal window.
So I suppose what we have to look at there is pit stop times to work out who's chosen to change tyres and who hasn't. Obviously, changing tyres will definitely give you an advantage over those who don't choose to change tyres, because you'll have fresher tyres, but it will cost you more stationary time in a pit lane, as Jordan Ross and Brenton Hobson both come in at the end of lap number 9 for their pit stops.
So that's exactly why we saw Maloney come in and basically get out as quick as he could. There was no tyre change from Maloney at the end of the race. That's why he didn't really have that speed that we were expecting him to come out with straight away out the blocks at the end of the race. And that was one thing that I didn't really pick up until Maloney didn't really set the timing light in the last lap, because I thought with fresh boots he was going to be super quick. But that's why he was so close to Burton, was because his pit stop time was only 3 seconds compared to roughly 10 seconds.
Well, having seen that strategy from Jake Maloney to run the entire race on the same set of tyres with the really quick pit stop at the end, could we see more of the field adopting that strategy this time around?
I feel like we could. There's a couple of people already that I've seen just do a 4-second stop. I think that was Taliantich that I saw flash up on the screen before. That's only done a 4-second pit lane. So he's done the quick up on the jack, down and go. And that's his service done. A couple of people, obviously, roughly you're looking around 10 seconds is a 4 tyre change. And there's no point doing left sides or right sides. There's no time saver there. So anyone roughly 10 seconds, 4 fresh tyres, they're going to be good to go to the end as we look at these battles. Further down the field, that's Muggleton to the inside. A little bit of contact, making that move on Thomas Hinds. He got it done, but that was not clean at all.
He really forced it through there, didn't he? And it pretty much cost Thomas Hinds all of his momentum on the exit of turn 4, and it's left Hinds vulnerable. The next group of chasing cars. He takes his sim racing very seriously, does Thomas Hinds. And right now, he's about to get his ears boxed by a big gaggle of cars that are queuing up behind. Here we go. More pit stops happening for our lead pack. Phil Sells, Scott, Dylan Rudd, Job Stewart, Ethan Grigol, all in the pits. Let's keep an eye on how long they're stationary in pit lane, and I can tell you that all of those drivers, they are taking a fresh set of tyres.
Yeah, exactly. These guys are putting a fresh set of boots, so I'm going to give himself the best run to the end of the race. And I think that's what we expected most of them to do. There is just those couple of guys, like we said, Maloney last race was one of them at the end that just literally got the car off and the jacks, dropped it down and got going. Hampstead, I think, was the same as well. Whereas some of these guys, now that they're pitting earlier, you may as well put the fresh tyres on. I feel like if you're going to do that strategy of just the no tyre call, you do it near the end. Oh, we've got a car off. That's Sean McNamara. Sorry, that's a big off down at turn number 1. That's massive contact. He's hit the only part that you can hit between turns 1 and 2, and that is that flagman post in between at the bottom of Southern Loop. What happened here? That's a big off to go all the way down there for Sean McNamara. He's rejoined the race. Did he get contact with someone lucky down here into turn 1?
So...
or teammate.
I think this will answer this question. Yes, it was they locked wheels. They locked wheels, and as soon as he got on the grass, Sean McNamara was a passenger from there and into the tyre wall, protecting that Marshall's post at Southern Loop.
No, that's just one of those things. Not much you can do when you make contact wheel to wheel. It just shoots the car off the road. And that's exactly what happened there for Sean McNamara. Brady Myers is currently in front. Andrew Gilliam and Rick Kuznetsov come down pit lane. That'll be 4 fresh tyres for both of them to come back out. And that will resume the battle between Phil Sell and Gilliam.
Brady Myers now your race leader ahead of Madison Down. If there's a couple of drivers who are going to benefit from running along and choosing not to change tyres, these might be 2 drivers who that strategy might work for. So we'll keep an eye on those 2 cars and see what they choose to do.
I feel like they'd be the 2 that might do it too, Lucky, in this race. Myers and Down. Myers obviously having a little bit of a poor start to this one. But Down, starting middle of the pack, he made up as much ground as he could, but this could be where he could try and just pick him off further down through the field. This is a battle, Kuznetsov and Scott, these 2 having a war of words out there at the moment with their cars, and Scott is going to have to try and look for another way around Kuznetsov, who just came out of the pits.
So Kuznetsov with tyres that are 1 lap fresher, but they will be cold, so he's rejoins just in front of James Scott, and right now he's fighting fiercely to keep the 088 car at bay, and not too far away from that battle as well, Richard Hampstead. As Kuznetsov defends to the inside, and we've got a car stopped. Adam Briggs on the outside of the final corner, and with that car in that position, it could well trigger a safety car intervention.
It's got the light on the rear. I'm unsure whether it's turned itself off, and sometimes if you don't have that button mapped, you can't get the car restarted. So at the moment, yeah, Adam Briggs off the road at the corner of Siberia. There it is, safety car. Safety car has been called, and the safety car is out, and this is gonna bunch them up. A couple of people who haven't stopped the top 7 at the moment, Lucky, they need to get in the pit lane to get some boots.
Yeah, they'll have to put tyres on now, so if they were thinking about running that long strategy, this safety car will obviously pretty much ruin that as an option for them, because if they were to try and run that strategy, they're going to lose all of their track position over everybody else. So Myers down, Stenberg, Maloney, Burke, Rosella will all have to come in and take on some fresh tyres.
This also means those guys that have sort of come in a little bit earlier than others in terms of tyre wear, they're going to have some really bad tyre life. Let's see what's happened to Adam Briggs. Oh, it's detonated. It blew the motor on the downshift through into Siberia. So the third gear change from memory. So it's been a while since I've been in the sim, all right, guys? Fourth to third, I think the downshift there, it's just detonated. You hear it and bang, there's the smoke. And off it went. And that is why we had Adam Briggs stop at the outside of Siberia.
So Adam Briggs' day is done, and quite amazing when you consider how chaotic the races have been tonight, that this is the first time that we've seen an appearance from the Logitech G Aston Martin GT4 safety car. And Brady Myers, he missed his pit there, he overshot. Watch this, as he came in, he locked the brakes, he's gone forward too far, he had to reverse back to get it up on the jacks. That's a bit of valuable time lost there for Brady Myers in that pit stop.
And it's put him behind Madison Down as well, who is about 1.2 to 1.3 seconds behind him in terms of on the racetrack at the time. So Down's gained another position to move himself over to P8. Phil Sell, though, he will retake the lead. Dylan Rudd, though, with a brilliant strategy. I was watching him in terms of strategy-wise. He was basically back to Phil Sell, about a second off him before, obviously, the safety car has bunched them all up. And it actually put him in front of Gilliam and Kuznetsov. It was a brilliant stop from Rudd.
So by stopping one lap earlier, basically the undercut strategy there for Dylan Rudd. So the question now is, does Dylan Rudd have the pace to be able to attack and challenge Jared Filsell at the restart?
That's going to be the thing that we've got to think about now, is does he have the ability to attack Filsell on the restart? He had good pace, don't get me wrong, he had really good speed. I just feel like Gilliam is the better paced out of that top 4 at the moment. You can put Scott in that battle as well, but he's down in P number 5. He's got a lot of work to do. But if Gilliam can get around Rudd, I think Gilliam had a little bit better speed than Filsell in that first stint.
I tend to agree with you, and what I will say is, just having a look there, it's actually on the exit of Siberia that Dylan Rudd's car has expired. I thought that it was the final corner, but I was wrong. It's actually Siberia.
Yeah, Siberia,
so,
yep.
Yep. So I think if Dylan Rudd is to challenge Jared Filsell for the race win, he has to get past him early. It has to be a very, very immediate overtaking manoeuvre. I would say within the first lap of the safety car restart, that's when he has to make his move, because if he leaves it too long, I think Filsell might just be able to keep him at bay.
Yeah, I feel like Filsell may be able to just skip away ever so slightly from Rudd, but man, I've seen more chaotic things in this championship. I've seen it all, and I feel like Filsell, he's got a lot of work to do to be able to hold on Dylan Rudd and Andrew Gilliam. The draft helps the people behind. Without the draft, you can just stay in a touch of that race leader. I feel like Rudd will be able to do that very strongly. He's always had good race pace. He had really good race pace last season. He was one of the standout drivers in terms of just being in that top 10 at the end of all the races. So I feel like he can definitely be there. But Gilliam, I think he's going to be the one to watch.
Now, in terms of points overall for the round, so looking at combined results from races 1 and 2, I know that we'll still have, when we restart this race, probably 8 laps remaining. But at the moment, you would have to say that with 2 third-place finishes, Andrew Gilliam would be on target to win the round overall, just by virtue of consistency once you take into account that time penalty for Jared Filsell in race 1.
Yeah, I feel like that would definitely be roughly where it is. I feel like Gilliam should be around the round winner. It'll be interesting to see who would be second in that. It'd have to be Kuznetsov, maybe Scott, dependent on where they finish the end of this one. But definitely Gilliam has done a mega job. Like you said, the consistency been there. I just feel like if he qualified better, Lockie, he could have been on for an easier podium in race 1 and then an easier race this one.
Yeah, qualifying's definitely the area that Andrew Gilliam needs to work on, and if we get to interview him at the end of this race, then that's definitely a topic that we can raise with him. That is for sure.
Look at that beautiful Logitech G safety car. First time I've seen it this year. Was there one at Sebring? You're going to have to...
Yes, there was.
There was
yes,
one at Sebring?
Safety car at Sebring, yep.
First time I've seen it out here for this season, but I was shocked we didn't see it in the last race. But this is what sprint racing does. I feel like we'll be getting ready to get green and go again once this safety car peels in this lap. It looks like that'll be the case. Phil so out in front, Lockie. It's going to be on. He needs to get a really good restart.
He does. So if the lights go out on the safety car, we'll have 7 laps remaining. So the order at the moment, Jared Filsell, your leader behind Dylan Rudd. Andrew Gilliam third, back to Rick Kuznetsov. James Scott is fifth, back to Richard Hanstead. Madison Down, who's moved up 10 positions so far in this race, he's up to 7th spot. Then we go back to Job Stewart, Brady Myers and Brenton Hobson. Once again, having a consistent weekend, he sits inside the top 10.
See the 2 drivers' cameras that we got. That's Kurt Stenberg, Blake Warboys. You saw Blake Warboys sort of relax the shoulders a little bit, get back in the seat, because, you know, this is where it happens. This is the action. He's in P14. He's in the middle of the battle. It's where it starts to get feisty. These restarts are always chaotic. Safety cars breed safety cars, don't they, Lockie? And at the moment, Phil Sell's going to try and hope that there isn't another one at the end.
The fast drivers buried a bit further down the order as well, so obviously Jake Burton after that drive-through penalty back in 26th position. Josh Anderson is 31st at the moment as well. Wayne Burke back in 22nd spot, so some speedy drivers a bit further back in the pack, but it's going to be up to Jared Filsell to control the pace of the field at this safety car restart. And I reckon that he'll want to accelerate pretty soon and try and catch the field by surprise as much as he can, but he's leaving it quite late.
He's leaving it very late, isn't he, Lockie? Oh.
And he's bunching the field right up all the way down to the start-finish line, Jared Filsell.
Look at this, look at the TTR car on the inside. They're gone, there's the green.
Wow, he left it right to the last minute there, but it's worked Jared Filsell because he's been able to skip away a couple of car lengths on Dylan Rudd. It's created a concertina behind. We've got a couple of cars already running side by side down through turn 1.
Managed to keep them clean, having a look a little bit further back. No one sort of dropping down the order, they're all clean. Filsell out. Oh, and as I say that, there's a big accident. That looks like that's Burke and Muggleton involved in an incident down at the southern loop for rejoin there for Muggleton. Oh, that's a TTR car, deep dive down the inside. Managed to get it stopped. Oh, that was a big move from Myers as well. Stewart loose on the exit.
And that's going to make him vulnerable to Brenton Hobson, who gets up the inside into Siberia. And we've got another car off the road. That's Tom Freer on the exit of turn number 4. And more side-by-side action on the exit of Siberia with Michael Taliancic a bit further back. He was one of the early stoppers who chose not to change tyres, so he'll be on well-worn rubber compared to everybody else who's got fresh tyres at their disposal.
It's become chaotic in the middle of the field. We said this, safety cars breed safety cars. Marcelo Rivera on the defensive over Luke Mitchinson managed to hold on to another position. Burton's moved himself up into P number 17 already from the restart. He's managed to get himself up another couple of spots. Look at this, 3 wide into the last corner, boys. This does not work. They managed to sort themselves out. That was Taliancic in the middle of Anderson, and I believe it was Rosella on the outside. Taliancic is in the dirt on the exit. They're all side by side now going down the front straight.
Hold your breath for turn number 1 because they're going to get themselves sorted out by the time they get down here. Taliancic on those older tyres. He is getting belted from pillar to post at this restart. He just does not have the package that he needs to be fighting against his opponents at the moment. You can see how sideways the car is getting on the exit of some of these corners.
Oh, here we go. Hins with Boyd on the inside now coming through Stoner Corner. Love this part of the racetrack. Sets itself up for the inside of Miller. Taliancic is on the defensive. Boyd going to go around the outside of Hins in the Synergy Sim Racing Fluoro Yellow. Commodore, he's going to try and hold himself around the outside. Down the inside, there's another move. Moves himself up into P25, and this has set them all ablaze. All I hear in my ear is race control getting caused for multiple incidents through the field. They're going to be busy.
Like I said, it's certainly going to be a busy evening for race control, but Jared Fulsell managing the race beautifully from the front of the field. He's got an advantage of just under half a second on Dylan Rudd, who's under some pressure from Andrew Gilliam. We know that Gilliam's got pace. Rick Kuznetsov still sitting there in position number 4 at the moment, ahead of James Scott, as we see Kurt Stenberg battling it out with Luke Mitchison a bit further back in the pack. Mitchison a bit wide off the final corner. He'll be vulnerable to Stenberg. They're going to go side by side down into turn 1. Stenberg gets his nose in front as they reach the turning point. This is a move a bit like the one that we saw from Burton in race 1 earlier on, and he's pulled it off Kurt Stenberg. Nicely done.
Yeah, good move from Kurt Stenberg around the outside of turn 1. Good job. Moves himself up another position. You see him there on the right side of the driver's can. He was giving it all. He was full concentration mode through turn 1 to make sure he didn't make any mistakes, but he got it done. Gave Luke Mitchison the room. Behind him is Burton. Down the inside of Luke Mitchison. He is on the climb back to try and move himself up another bunch of positions. And this is what he needs to do, Lockie. He needs to manage the points as there's a big accident. There's a massive accident in Miller Corner. Multiple cars involved. Maloney's around. Another one of the SSR cars around. I think it's Hayden Veld. It was Jack Boyd, was it? There were Luke Rosella, sorry. That was around. He had contact. There was another car involved. Multiple cars around.
Poor Luke Rosella, he's just been in the wrong place at the wrong time this evening. So Rosella was actually the first one to go there on the exit of turn number 4. He got T-boned in the driver's door and then also collected up the side as well. Here is how it unfolded initially. So it was actually Rosella who made the initial mistake there and got into one of the Trans-Tasman cars, and from there the carnage just got worse and worse, a bit like the accident with Max Wilson in that corner back in 2002.
Yeah, it just continued to spiral out of control, and he got his teammate as well, Jack Boyd. So that was the other car that I saw that was around. So he had contact, and Gilliam on the exit of the Southern Loop. That's a bad exit. I think he was trying to set himself up for the move on Dylan Rudd to P2. He got loose on the exit, spun up the rear tyres. Now, down the inside, he's going to have to defend from Kuznetsov, trying to go the long way around. He gets a little bit of bump at the middle Miller corner. That's the one. He's actually turned him. Gilliam around, airborne. Can he keep it out of the fence? I think he can. But there was contact on the exit. Gilliam from the podium dropping all the way out of the top 10.
And while all that's going on, Wayne Burke has a drive-through penalty for contact with Josh Mogulson, but what a disaster for Andrew Gilliam. He was in the box seat, we were saying, to win the round based on where he was sitting in the race order, based on other results that had happened throughout the evening. There you can see that he just lost a bit of traction there coming out of Southern Loop, which made him vulnerable to Rick Kuznetsov in the run into turn number 4. And I think it was James Scott who made contact with him from the rear. No, there wasn't. It was actually, he still had overlap Andrew Gilliam with Kuznetsov, was on his outside. And so as he tried to assume the racing line on the exit of turn number 4, he wouldn't have realised Andrew Gilliam was still overlapped there. And basically he's just spun himself across to the side of the track and fallen way down the order.
He's going to be gutted with that. Just that little split-second decision, thinking he was clear, he wasn't. And Gilliam's gone from the podium to P18. That's, like you said, way down the field. He's nearly off the timing chart. That's how far he's gone down the order. As that is Hayden Veld, I believe, leaving the room as Myers down the inside of Hampstead, giving a little bit of hip and shoulder to his teammate, moves himself up into P number 5. He comes down with that beaten, battered TTR Commodore from the lap 1 incident on the front nose that he had at turn number 4. He's trying to see if he can try and make out as many points as he can after his falter in race 1. He just needs to try and hold on to salvage some points.
How's this performance from Dylan Rudd, though? Has been really good, his drive tonight. He's up there challenging Jared Fulsell for the race lead at the moment. There'll be a couple of laps left at the end of this one for him to try and find a way past. Dylan Rudd showing really, really strong race pace in the closing stages of this one. He's going to make Jared Filsell work for this race victory tonight.
He's done a really good job actually to close up to the back of Filsell in the second portion of this latest stint after the safety car restart. Once he sort of got rid of Gilliam in terms of being all over him, he's managed to knuckle down. And now he's all over the back of Jared Filsell. All he needs to do is show the nose at the right point, get Jared Filsell a little bit offline, put himself in a position to make a move, and he can take this one. He's really all over the back. And I think it's also livened up the fact that James Scott is closing in from P number 3.
It's shaping up for a blockbuster finish here tonight in round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational A-Series. And look at this, the battle is well and truly on here. Defensive goes Filsell at turn number 4. He had to drive it right down the inside of the circuit, and this has bunched the lead pack right up heading into the last lap. We've got another move on a little bit further back with a couple of the TTR cars. No, sorry, that was actually James Scott getting up the inside.
The move, yeah, it was. So it was the move down the inside. Filsell covered Dylan Rudd off. Scott actually got upset in terms of unsettled on the outside of Miller Corner. So he lost the spot to Kuznetsov, then trying to make the move back up on Myers himself, and Myers made contact down at Siberia. It's all happening. Scott was basically P3. He lost the spot to Kuznetsov because of the defensive line. It threw off Scott, and he nearly ended up out in the weeds with Myers. And now Hampstead's capitalised for a top 5. It's all going on up inside this top 10.
Yeah, these positions are still not decided yet. We've got one lap to go this time around. Jared Filsell, he's been in this position plenty of times before at the lead, or in the lead of the race with pressure from behind. Dylan Rudd, can he have a sniff somewhere? Can he force Filsell into a mistake? We've seen that Dylan Rudd has been really, really strong heading into turn number 4.
Good thing as well, Dylan Rudd, he's got his teammate behind him. He knows he's not going to get attacked if he doesn't have to. Kuznetsov could just let his teammate go at it if he has the snippet opportunity to get Filsell. A couple of car lengths too far behind, though, is Dylan Rudd this time lucky to make a move into Miller Corner. There's a couple of dives down the inside. Burton Rivera further down the field side by side into turn number 4, and that's going to move. Rivera's going to hold on to that position to keep himself in front of Burton, but out in front, Filsell's doing a mega job at the moment to keep P number 1.
I think he might have just done enough. There'll be one more overtaking opportunity, and that will be into MJ Corner, and you can bet that Jared Filsell will do everything that he needs to do to cover off that potential overtaking challenge from Dylan Rudd. Brakes late, makes sure that he gets a nice tidy exit, hits the apex perfectly. Tell you what, Rudd having a little bit of a slip on the inside heading into the final couple of corners, so Filsell will need to make sure it's a nice straight exit from turn 12, the final corner. It was a shocker for Jared Filsell in round number 1, but he's going to bounce back in style in round 2 with the race win. It's Jared Filsell who takes victory at the Phillip Island Super Sprint, presented by Watercraft Performance Centre for round number 2 of the Logitech G Pro Invitational A-Series. Dylan Rudd, great drive to finish in second position ahead of Rick Kuznetsov. James Scott in 4th, back to Richard Hampstead, Brady Myers. Madison Down recovering from a poor result in race 1 to finish up in 7th spot. Then we go back to Job Stewart in 8th position. Brenton Hobson rounding out a consistent round in 9th spot, and Jordan Ross completing your top 10.
What a race. What a drive, though, from Jared Filsell. He had one of those races in race 1 where I think he would have liked to have just stayed out of trouble. He had that little bit of contact, cost himself 5 seconds. But in race 2, he showed him what he had to do. The best start I think I've seen for a long time in a supercar, and that's what set himself up. That start was mega, and he did all he needed to do, lucky to be able to close it down. But hats off to Dylan Rudd. He didn't give up without a fight to the end.
And there'll be a couple of drivers that'll be kicking themselves after that race, because what could have been really good opportunities to bank some solid points and perhaps move to the top of the standings went begging. I think Andrew Gilliam, he will be wondering what might have been had he just left a little bit more room for Rick Kuznetsov on the exit of turn number 4. And the other one will be Jake Burton, a terrible start from pole position and then a drive-through penalty. Managed to salvage 13th position, but it could have been so much better for him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely... Gilliam will be gutted that he made that mistake on the exit of turn 4, and that's what cost him what would have been a double podium finish here today. He definitely had some mega speed to be able to hold on to P3 unless something else happened behind. But Phil Sell going to come down the front straight, measurably lock him up and burn him down as he had a mega drive there to round out round 2 of the championship as he tips it in to the front straight. Good tip in there, Phil Sell, to get the job done tonight. But what a drive. What a race. As like you said, Burton as well, race 1 winner. If he didn't get that penalty, where would he be? Because he still managed to claw himself back to 13th. Safety car helped him, but he did a good job too.
It'll be interesting to look at what the championship standings are after tonight's round. There's no way that I'm going to try and calculate them in my head based on the variation in results that we've had across the 2 races tonight, but I think it is fair to say that it's going to be very, very tight at the top of the standings, and with some good results for Jared Filsell tonight, including a race win after the shocker in round 1 at Sebring. He has got himself right back into the contest.
Yep, that's put himself right back into that championship hunt. That's what he needed to do. We saw it happen last season. Madison Down clawed himself away to get himself back in after missing the opening round at Winton. He put himself back in the championship to be able to calm runners up or close enough to it. He can do the same thing, Phil Sell. He needs some good results, and once again, he showed his class tonight.
And he's also showing us some Russell Ingall 2005 style burnouts on the main straightaway as well. There's not going to be a lot left of the tyres or the engine or pretty much any of the components of that Synergy Sim Racing Commodore when Jared Filsell has done with it. Just as well we're operating in the virtual world, because if it was real life, there'd be some pretty big bills to pay to get that car back into shape for the next race.
He's going to need a little bit more to get back that car in shape, but a Mega Drive done the job. Looking at those results, a couple of people that were stand out further down the field that would have rather a really good result is a bunch of those guys down the field in terms of Phil Sell had a mega drop, but like you look down the field, you're looking at Maloney, one of those people, Gilliam as well with the incident, Rehan Lianic. There's so many people down the field that had some issues in that race, but here he is, round 2, race 2 winner, and we'll let you kick off with Jared Filsell, Lockie.
Yeah, congratulations, Jared. Good night for you tonight, and after the disappointment of round 1 at Sebring, you've got yourself right into the championship hunt this evening. How was that? How was the night overall from your perspective?
Pretty good, to be honest. This is notoriously one of my worst tracks. It's probably the best car I've had here in this new generation car. So yeah, it's testament to the guys. I'll say thank you to Shane for lending me his document. So yeah, that was a great car to drive tonight. Just unfortunate about the race 1 with that penalty that I had when I was racing with Brady. But other than that, pretty good night. Yeah, just need to keep chipping away at the points now.
We'll talk about the positive aspects of your night first. So race number 2, we saw that you got an absolute blinder start. How did you manage to launch off the line so quickly?
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. Probably made it look better when the other guys didn't quite get off the line as well as they would have hoped. But yeah, I think it was pretty similar to my race 1 start, but those guys made me look good. So yeah, thanks to them.
After that last safety car, you had a bit of pressure from behind from Dylan Rudd. Were there any particular sections of the track where you felt like he was going to be a bit stronger and potentially have a dive at you?
Not really, no. He was very strong on entry and mid, but seemed to struggle with the exit. So yeah, I tried to get my teammate back in the game there with a few laps to go, but yeah, it's unfortunate that he couldn't capitalise on that. But yeah, no, it's good. Cruising out front there after the safety car. The car was really good once the tyres cooled off. Just struggled with a little bit of long run pace. If it would have went green, it probably would have been a bit more of a struggle.
Race number 1, you were right in the game in that one as well, but we saw that in the last stint, maybe you didn't quite have the pace of some of those drivers around you who were on slightly fresher tyres, and then there was that controversial incident with Brady Myers on the exit of turn number 4. What was your perspective on that one?
Yeah, I did a really poor job bringing the tyres up. I lit them up out of the lane, and I had a few lockups on my outlap, so that's pretty detrimental to long run pace in the end in this car and this tyre. So yeah, that's on me there. Yeah, Brady had a dive. It was pretty good move. And then yeah, we just collided on exit there. So yeah, I got the penalty. We'll press on, move on. Yeah, I think it was a fair penalty. There's no gripes on my end.
Overall, though, really strong night for you. A race win, big bundle of points. You've got yourself right back in the championship contest. Who would you like to thank?
Yeah, obviously with a new livery this year, I'd like to thank Jordan as well as James. We're repping his business this year with the Watercraft Performance Centre. He had a small sticker on the car last year, but it's great to represent him with a main logo and front and centre on the car now. Yeah, I must say the car looks good, although we do blend in with a bit with TTR a little bit, so we might have to might have to tune that up a bit. But that's good. It's, just thanks to the guys at the team. They're obviously working super hard. We want to try and keep the number 1 on the door this year. It's proven to be going to be quite difficult, but we're just going to press on and see where we end up at the end of the year.
Well done, Jared. Congratulations on a successful evening. There he is, Jared Filsell, our Race 2 winner tonight. Coming home in second place tonight, driving for the 9.5 SimSport team. A really, really strong performance all night from Dylan Rudd, and he's standing by for a chat with Jake Blackhall.
That I am, and Dylan Rudd, mega drive today. Last season, you did those drives where you put yourself inside that top 10. Tonight, you showed it, come away with a P2. How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, pretty pumped with that one. Yeah, over the moon.
How did that car feel? Because it looked like it looked really good. Jared obviously said it looked like you had better mid and entry, just a little bit worse in terms of the exit, but it looked like you guys had a really good car. Tell us about the car. How did it feel tonight? Yeah,
definitely. Setup definitely preferred the second race with the cooler track. Setup has a bit more initial turn than drive, so struggled to get the drive over other cars in the race, but got fortunate with a few incidents that we were up the front at the end of the race.
Was it good to have your teammate behind you at the end of the race? Did that calm the nerves a little bit in those last 2 laps? Where you knew that you had Rick behind you, allowed you to sort of focus on what was in front?
Oh, definitely. As soon as Rick got in front of James there, it definitely took the pressure off. I knew James was coming at a bit more pace than me at the end of the race there, but unfortunately Rick was able to put a move on him.
Yeah, he was able to give you that breath of fresh air at the end of the race. But looking ahead, really good, solid, strong result for both races tonight. You head to Spa. How do you feel about Spa in a couple of weeks?
I'm not sure. I missed that round last season, so haven't driven there for quite a while, so I'll just have to wait and see how we go, I guess.
I feel like it's all going to be a wait and see. I feel like Spa's going to be one of those rounds that's going to be a long, hard races that's going to put everyone on their toes. But congratulations, Dylan. Mega job tonight. You did an awesome job out there to bring the 9.5 SimSports home in second place for race number 2. Any shouts anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just like to thank all the boys in the team. We put in a bit of work this week and seemed to have paid off. All our sponsors, Racecraft Simulations, Turn In Race Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, Custom Ear Protection, Cutting Edge Tracks, and RB Media.
Thank you, Dylan. Congratulations again on a strong second place finish, and hopefully you can have another good run in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. And now Lockie's going to be joined with Rick Kuznetsov, another 9.5 SimSport car coming home in P number 3.
Indeed it was. So Rick Kuznetsov, another driver who had a very consistent evening tonight, got up to third place in race number 2. Off the top, Rick, your livery with the Anzac commemorative logo looking absolutely sensational, and some strong performances on track tonight. There was a fair bit of chaos out there in both races, but you managed to keep your nose clean and came away with a couple of really good results.
Yeah, definitely the car was quick. The boys put a lot of work over the week to get a good setup, so pace was mega.
Walk us through the inspiration behind the Anzac livery. It actually looks a bit reminiscent of a livery that was run by the Holden racing team a few years back, but a really good tribute to the servicemen and women who've served our country.
Yeah, definitely. A big shout out to Sean. He does all the liveries in the background, so the livery looks mega.
Come up really, really well. Throughout tonight's 2 races, plenty of action, but you managed to, like I said, keep your nose relatively clean. Were there any particular battles that stood out? In particular, I'm thinking about that battle that you were having with Andrew Gilliam in race 2.
Yeah, feel bad for Gillian for turning, but I'm not sure if I'm going to get a penalty. It was a race incident, to be honest. But had a good battle with Scott for race 1 and race 2 as well.
Yeah, in terms of the championship, obviously a strong result. I think that based on the points that you scored tonight, you'll be well up inside the top 10 now as well. And off the back of strong performances from both you and Dylan Rudd in the qualifying series, you're starting to make your presence felt on the main series as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think 9.5 itself, been working really hard in the background and this season, trying to get the best results possible for the team.
Heading to the next round at Spa, what's going to be involved in preparing for that one and making sure that you're running towards the front of the field again?
I think thousands of laps, so many laps, but it's just trying to get it set up right. I think the team doesn't have that much races around Spa with the supercars, so there's going to have to be a lot of testing in the background to get a good setup for the race.
Obviously, your teammate Dylan Rudd's running pretty competitively as well. How closely are you and him working together on setups and sharing information together?
Sharing a lot. We are teammates. It's pretty good to have a strong teammate. We've got other drivers as well, but to have fast drivers in the team, it definitely pushes yourself to get a better result, and working together definitely helps the setup as well.
Indeed it does. All right, Rick, well done on a great night. Before we let you go, people that you would like to thank?
Yeah, big shout out to the boys in 9.5, Racecraft Simulations, Turning Race Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, Cutting Edge Tracks, and RB Media.
Good stuff, Rick. Well done on a great night. And our final interview for the evening will be our Race 1 winner tonight. It was a bit of a bittersweet evening for him, but at least he managed to get victory in the first race of the evening. Jake Burhan is standing by for a chat with Jake Blackhall.
It's a pair of Jakes here in the commentary booth now, and Jake, good to have you back. And what a race! I picked you, so you're welcome for that in race 1. You're welcome for that one. I'll take the cut for that. But mega job in race 1. The pace was there. I knew you had it, as I know you love this joint, and you capitalised on the little mistake from Mads to be able to get that race 1. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's very rare that you get Mads make a mistake.
Oh yeah,
especially at this joint. So, after the E-Series race here, where I felt like I pressured him the whole race, and he sustained the pressure. It was nice to get one up him at this point actually. But yeah, really really good pace. Our car was so quick this week. It showed even in qualifying, having so many cars up front. It was mega work by the TTR guys, and even stretching back as far as E-Series, to be honest, that's sort of where this setup started. So I got to give Brock a shout out, because he made a fairly big contribution to this set probably 6 months ago. But good to win a race finally. But race 2 not so strong.
Yeah, race 2 not your strongest point, but once you got away, you did your drive-through penalty, you got all that out of the way after lap 1, after your really poor start, which was a pretty bad start, not gonna lie from that. But once you got all that out, the car looked mega, because you drove back through the field to get yourself up in the 13 with a little bit of safety car help.
Yeah, that's right. The safety car definitely helped me, but on that safety car restart, we were 27th and we finished 13th. So it's pretty solid run. We got a bit lucky with a few crashes, but yeah, shocking start. I need to look at that, being off pole, making a mistake like that, and then to be honest, pretty rubbish penalty that I got on the first lap as well, which wasn't so nice. But nonetheless, still 13th, which isn't a catastrophe for the championship. I think we'll still be looking fairly solid, but ultimately a good round overall. Pretty happy.
Yeah, you can't not be unhappy, especially with a race win, and to get yourself back into some points paying positions in the end of some solid work today, which doesn't take you out of the run that much. But Spa next, how do you guys prepare for that?
A track that I personally don't really like all that much in the supercar. Yep. I'm not sure how well suited it is, but I know Mads has historically been quite fast there, so I'm sure he'll lead the way. And it's just a matter of trying to match him and see what we can do against the likes of Jared, James, and the rest, really. We've had, I'd say, probably the better pace in the first 2 rounds so far this season, so it's just going to be a matter of keeping that up and minimising our mistakes, really. But that's going to be it.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can keep those mistakes out of your way, and especially for Mads, he's always quick here. It was one of those ones where I was like, Mads is off the road, what's he doing? But congratulations, Jake, on the opening race winner. Any shout-outs anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just stoked to bring it home for TTR. Obviously, huge thanks to our team sponsor and my personal sponsor, VRS. I think, funnily enough, the Phillip Island official data pack for VRS was up last week, and the setup that we uploaded, or Mads uploaded, was not a long way from this. So, pretty quick set if you want to go over there and check that out, as well as CardFX and Tim Hatton and all our other supporters. Huge thanks, and to the team as well. It's been a really solid return to TTR for me so far, so stoked to get a win under the belt.
Yeah, really good job, Jake, and hopefully you can keep that up at Spa in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
And that was Jake Burton, Lockie, and that is going to round us out in interview land in round 2, and man, a couple of weeks and head to Spa.
Indeed. So the next round coming up over in Belgium at the Spa-Francorchamps circuit on the 10th of May. Thoroughly looking forward to that one. Supercars at Spa is going to be epic. Make sure that you stay tuned to the Logitech G Pro Invitational A-Series social media channels and website for all of the updates, all of the news, all of the ins and outs of everything that went on tonight, including obviously the updated championship points, which will be up in the next day or so. Plenty of action, plenty to debrief after that one, Jake. So the reporters who write the fantastic news articles for the Logitech G Pro Invitational A-Series website are going to have some great interviews and some great chats to have, that is for sure. It's been a pleasure working with you, Jake. Thoroughly enjoyed this evening.
Thank you. Same to you. It was awesome, and hopefully we can do it more in the future. Hopefully work commitments with the new job doesn't conflict too much. I may miss Spa. I'll see if I can maybe try and swap that shift around, but if not, I may miss Spa, so hopefully a good call there, and good luck there for everyone as well who are racing, and hopefully I'll be able to join you all soon again.
We'll keep our fingers crossed that you can keep joining us throughout season 2023. A big thank you to Watercraft Performance Centre for their support of this round. Motorsport Australia, who are also on board as an official partner this season. And of course, Logitech G for their continued support of the Pro Invitational A-Series. A big thank you as well to our producer, Luke Lucas, who does all of the production work for the broadcast behind the scenes. On behalf of the entire team here at the Logitech G Pro Invitational A-Series, I'm Lockie Mansell. See you next time. Bye for now.